has been reported by the Orlando Sentinel today, and I may or may not have heard something about this recently from a source. Anyway, the season opening matchup for Miami and Florida could possibly be moved up a week from August 31st to August 24th. And that is potentially because ESPN is in talks to move the game up a weekend to go early and have the entire spotlight as opposed to being on the 31st with all of the opening week games. Now, to move that, and again, you can check this out, or the Orlando Sentinel, it's up on 247 Sports. I'm probably going to blog about it really quickly after I get off of here. But that would require NCAA approval because that is an earlier start date, which means that practices would have to start earlier, and it's an earlier start to the season than the actual season calendar has. Because I think the first day that you can have a game is that Thursday, the 28th, I want to say, or 29th. So yeah, that is a thing that has developed recently today. It is potentially possible. It is not 100% in stone yet. Or anything like that, but did just want to bring that up and broach that topic because, like I said, I'd heard a whisper about that, and then to see that in the Sentinel through things, and like I said, I heard it from one person. I will say this much: I heard it from one person, but to be able to run with something, with journalistic integrity, you need to hear it from at least 3 or 4 unconnected people, to vet your sources, and I just hadn't had time to do that or anything, and then so it is possible that the game could be moved up. But then again, the NCAA could just say, nope, not going to do it. But I don't know that they would necessarily spite ESPN like that. But we'll see. But like I said, it has been reported by the Orlando Sentinel that it is possible that the game between Miami and Florida could be moved up by 7 days.
So if you're close to my age, then you remember way back into the early 80s, let's say, when college football started always in September, regardless of the way the calendar fell, they played less games. They played 11 games then, and everybody started in September. And then there was an event that started called the Kickoff Classic. And then there were other variations of that. Miami played in several, one against Auburn. I remember one against the blasted Penn State, coming off Penn State at national championship season, which Miami annihilated them like 44-6. I remember scores for some reason. Anyway, It was played at the Meadowlands. There were other games. Of course, and they would pit 2 of the great programs in the country. And it was this phenomenal thing that we have a football game played in August, like August 29th, just because it was played, several days before the rest of the season. And then the schedule adjusted and everybody started playing 12 games. And those particular teams would play 12 games because that was an additional game. Now here we're in a place where everybody plays the Pat 12-game schedule, but we've got this opening weekend, like a week 0 that we've had for several years. And there's usually these oddball games. Nobody big is playing, but you're starved for college football. So you watch Rice and Stanford play. I think they played in Australia last year. You got odd games like that, like a Colorado State, Oregon State. So you're seeing Group of 5 playing just the bottom of the barrel of the Power 5, but to have a matchup like Miami and Florida by itself playing that early, now that would be something, and that would be unprecedented.
Yeah, I mean, and we've had other great opening, games, and it would be a wonderful thing to have, Miami and Florida, which is, better than, Miami and Alcorn State, which was a second week or opening game when I was in college and things like that. But yeah, when you have these marquee games, it really sets the season on fire. You start with a bang. It's not a thing like, okay, we're gonna just kind of waltz through September, and then maybe the first week of October we see something. Florida, Tennessee, usually that first or second weekend in October, whenever it is, or blah blah blah. No, like we're coming out of the gate, boom, we're rocking, we're rolling. Like the LSU game, or Florida this year, Alabama next year or the year after, in the opening game. I mean, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it is really great. But to have a traditional rivalry, like a game with kind of with meaning to it, okay, it's not for a conference thing. I mean, it is more bragging rights. But, when you have teams that are recruiting against each other, they're in the same state, Florida, I don't know which is the bigger institution, like financially. I think it's Florida, because Florida State, I think, is running at a big deficit right now, athletically. Excuse me. But yeah, so you have, the teams of consequence, universities, programs of consequence. So yeah, to have it in the opening week, it would be one thing. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. There are so many games on August 31st because that is the first Saturday of the season. So even if you have a couple of these kickoff classics at the same time, you got one on Fox, one on ESPN, one on ABC, you're competing against each other. But if you move one up a week to the 24th, it's like me in this house. I got 2,200 square feet for just me. I'm over here. I'm kicked back and relaxed, max and all cool. Like there's nobody here. I got the spotlight on me. I mean, like I got this light right here. It's all the stage is to myself. So and maybe that is what ESPN is maybe looking to get with Miami and Florida that opening week or before opening week. So this would be a week -1 almost instead of the week 0, but we'll see.
Well, I'm going to check here because you did have that, even though you opened with everyone else on week 1, you did have the Sunday night by yourself.
Right. Yeah, no, true.
LSU.
Yeah, exactly. We did have that Sunday night. So you are correct about that.
So here's your week 0 game. Now, again, I played up Colorado State, Oregon State. Again, I just remember them playing like a 57-32 game this past season, and I watched it from start to finish just because I was starved for college football. So I'm watching Oregon State, the worst team in Power 5, basically playing Colorado State last year. So this is the version of this year. August 24th on a Saturday, Arizona and Hawaii are playing. So that's the kind of matchup you get on the week 0 is you get Hawaii. They went like 8-6, a nice, decent group of 5 program out of the Mountain West, taking on a Power 5 team that underachieved last year under Kevin Sumlin with 5 wins. Then you've got a nice little Thursday run of games that includes Utah, BYU, and UCLA and Cincinnati. And Georgia Tech, Clemson open the ACC network. And then you go to Friday and you've got a couple Big Ten teams playing. You got Rutgers playing at Oklahoma State and Oregon State. And then again, Saturday is the big extravaganza, and Florida and Miami is one of the marquee games, of course. But this again would put them all by their lonesome that weekend before.
Yeah, and that's a marquee spot, obviously, for a big game with teams of relevance. So and people want to talk about Miami not being relevant. Miami has always been relevant. Miami has not recently been good, and there is a distinct difference between those things. So
I agree.
I mean, obviously, Miami still does move the needle when on television with ESPN. I mean, I know the Thursday night games, Miami's always drawn well television-wise. Miami does not have a Thursday night game this year, which is kind of crazy to me. It's the first time in a long time that I think about that. I think there is a Friday night game, but no, actually, the Thursday, I'm thinking back to my youth, I'm hearing the old, like, early 2000s Thursday night football theme, so like, but yeah, no, Miami doesn't have one of those. But again, putting that game, moving Florida and Miami, up a week, would give the entire spotlight